Alright, this is going to be quite a long one because I actually do play a lot of Chun-Li. Chun-Li is one of the decks that I build. The price range you're going to probably be expecting for this deck is actually pretty cheap compared to like a lot of decks. A good Chun-Li deck, because your power scaling is not going to get to like high $100 to $200. You're probably going to be able to build a pretty competent Chun-Li deck at around $40 to $90. That's the thing, right? So Chun-Li is a card that by definition doesn't like hyper power scale. I mean, there's cards like Vesuvian Duplicate. Multi-kicker is the most important thing. You see this like line of text, this one, right under multi-kicker? When Chun-Li enters the battlefield, exile a target X instance from your graveyard, where X is the number of times Chun-Li's was kicked. Put a kick counter on each of them. That's a very important thing because in exile they can't be interacted with. You can't remove counters from them, so they're always going to be there. So she is actually a way to bank your spells and reuse them consistently. So the only real issue that Chun-Li has is Chun-Li herself surviving. So one of the main reasons you play Chun-Li is because you can A, bounce Chun-Li back and reuse the bounce spells to bounce other things back, or B, you can use Chun-Li to recurse and draw many cards at once over and over again. For example, I play Sphinx's Revelation, just good old-fashioned Sphinx's Rev. Sphinx's Rev is a good card, and it's an instant, which is the most important thing, because Chun-Li likes to bounce instants from the graveyard to exile. Once you get your cards in exile, you can start to target things on the battlefield during combat, which is where her second ability comes. Lightning Kick. Whenever Chun-Li attacks, you copy each exiled card, and then you get to choose to cast it, but you got to pay the mana cost. That's not that big of a deal. Having it gives you access to a second hand during combat. And sure, she's kind of frail. She's a 3/3, right? But that's where her real specialty comes in. If you put a Swiftfoot boots on her, it's pretty much impossible. There are ways to get around this for your opponents to really affect her. Once you get like Swiftfoot boots on her, you get like pretty good resiliency, and then you can cast cards. Vesuvian Duplicate. Cards that allow you to kind of go off. Monastery Mentor, Vesuvian Duplicate. Vesuvian Duplicate in particular allows you to clone Chun-Li, and there are cards like High Tide. There are cards that give your creatures protection, like Sphinx's Revelation, where you can just consistently make more and more Chun-Li's and make more and more mana, and not necessarily go infinite, but go exponential, because you're multiplying the amount of mana you get off of your islands with High Tide. You're drawing like 5 to 25 cards a turn if you really want to, and you're making a bunch of prowess tokens. So Chun-Li has a pretty decent ceiling, but if you're building Chun-Li, you're building Chun-Li for flavor. But that's one of the reasons I like Chun-Li. So this is the actual reason why I'm recommending you build Chun-Li, because it really does feel like you're alting in Street Fighter when you're just kicking a bunch of instants at different things. Build Chun